Welcome back to the Extraordinary Drummer Show. As you know, I'm your host, Cheron Moore. I'm really, as I always say, I'm really elated. I'm really happy to have my guests on today. We've been talking for quite some time. As you know, he was on the show where I did a tribute to Little Richard and the drummers of Little Richard, and we'll talk more about that later on. He's a producer, he's a songwriter, he's an awesome drummer, too much experience. Would you help me? Hey, Mark, am I making it too saucy there? As I said, he's an excellent, awesome drummer, so drummer's drummer. Would you help me welcome, please, Mark One Holland to the Extraordinary Drummer Show. Hey, Mark.
Hey, man, how you doing?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Thank you for having me on the show, brother.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, before we get into the show, tell me the Mark One Holland. What is that and why is that?
Well, it has two meanings. It started off because I'm from Ohio, I'm from Dayton, Ohio, and I grew up playing a lot of funk music, and everything is on the one. Later on, probably around, I want to say 2005, when I renewed my faith, never lost it, but just dedicated my life to the Lord. And I was reading the Bible, and I saw in the book of Mark 1:1 is the beginning of the gospel of Jesus Christ, and it took on a new meaning at that point. So that's where it all came from.
How are you, man?
I'm great, man. I'm blessed, glad to be alive, healthy,
yeah.
Strong, still trying to keep it going,
Let me take you all the way back. You've seen me say that a million times. Let me take you all the way back. Before we get to your history and the drumming and everything, man, some great stuff have came out of Ohio, out of Dayton. Did you get a chance to see a lot of that when you was coming up, Ohio players and all that stuff?
Yeah, most definitely. I remember very well when I was young, the Ohio players, they had this tour bus, and they were big, they were huge, when they was on Don Kirshner's rock concert, doing Skin Tight Fire and all that stuff. And, they had a rehearsal hall right off of Salem Avenue in Hillcrest. And we used to go past there and hang out, and you see they tour bus and stuff, and it was like, I want to be like that. And then, there was other groups, we had Slave and Sun and Roger and Zapp and Heat Wave, Lakeside. We had about like 16 major acts at one time that was, doing their thing right out of the Gym City, So it was definitely a time where when I was growing up, it was the band era, So being a part of the band was the thing, and you could ride through different neighborhoods and you would hear somebody, either in their garage playing music, in their basement, in their backyard or whatever. It was just a normal thing. That was the environment I grew up in. So music was definitely around the city. Actually, I didn't start playing drums till I was 13. My first instrument was trumpet. So about a year, I played the trumpet, and then I put it down. And we moved from that neighborhood into a better neighborhood. We was the first Black family to move into that neighborhood when I was 12 years old. And I remember I was sitting in my room, I was playing some P-Funk, the Parliament Live album, and I started beating on the pillows. I could hear what the drummer was playing. I started beating on the pillows, and it was like like that. It was a light bulb moment. And I ran to my mother's room and I was like, I want to play drums. And they was like looking at me. Her and my dad, they was looking at me and they was like, yeah, okay. And so now I was like, no. And so every day I'm like, I want to play. I got to get some drums. I want to play drums. And my mother was like, boy, I ain't getting you no drums. You played the trumpet for a year. You put it down, I was like, no, I really want to do this. So every day I would be on her. And then one day I was like, say, so can you take me, there was a music store downtown called Howard's Music. And I said, can you take me down there so I can take lessons, And her and my dad, they took me down there and signed me up. And this guy named George Lieber or Luber, I forgot his name. Anyway, he was the drum teacher. And he told my mother after my first lesson that I was a natural. And that's how it started, but I didn't have no drums. They gave me this little square pad and, kind of tilted like at a 45-degree angle. Just this piece of wood and had another piece of wood on it like that. And some rubber on top of it. And that was the pad I had, in a book. And I was like, man, I got to get me some drums. So I remember at my previous neighborhood, my next door neighbor that got me into playing Little League Baseball, he had two older brothers, and one of his brothers had been in the military. So we used to play upstairs in his attic. I mean, it was like an attic area, but I remember seeing his drum set that was in his closet, and I don't know how I thought about it, but I was like, man, I just called him up. I was like, hey, y'all still got that drum set in the attic, And he was like, yeah, actually, my mother wants to sell it. So I ran to my mom. I was like, yeah, Miss Morrow got this drum set they want to sell, can we get it? She was like, boy, I told you I ain't buying you no drums, I was like, come on, So I got her to get on the phone and talk to, his mother. And after they got off the phone, she said, well, I'm not going to buy you no drums, but I tell you what, if you really want these drums, I'll help you, but you're going to have to work for them. You have to get a job. Man, that was it. I was like, okay. So I ran across the street because the neighbor, he used to deliver papers. And I was like, man, can you take me to get a paper route? And he took me, man, and I got a paper route. And I would get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and deliver papers before I went to school. And I got my drum set. And that was the beginning. And then I was getting ready to go to high school. Well, I was in 8th grade at the time. And I put my first band together. And we played in a high school talent show. And we played Brick House by the Commodores and Disco Daz by the Daz Band, because it just came out and it was a hot new song.
What was your first big gig around Dayton that got you started at the next level? Not the Little Richard stuff and moving to California, we'll talk about that. What was your first big gig in the Dayton area that got you to the next level?
Well, I think when I was about 15 years old, I was at work one day. I wasn't playing with any local bands at the time. I was still playing in marching band in high school. And I worked in the mailroom, and I used to go around and deliver the mail to the different offices. And it was this brother named Chris Matthews that worked in the accounting department. And we used to talk when I would do my runs, and I told him I played drums. He was like, "Oh yeah," because he was in the music, doing management and engineering and different things like that. And he said he had some friends that there was a all black rock band that was looking for a drummer. But these guys were in their 20s. I was 15. And, you know, I grew up listening to rock and, you know, but I had never been in a rock band. I would play rock and, you know, practice in my basement and stuff. But I had never been in a rock band. And they were playing at this park called Island Park, which is kind of like, it's kind of set up on a much smaller scale, but it's kind of like Hollywood Bowl. It's a dome and it's a big park. And they have, so the stage is set up like that, like a big dome. And they were playing out there, and my mom took me out there to go see them because I told her, you know, they were looking for a drummer and they were older. So she wanted to go meet them because they were older. I was young. So the leader of the group, his name is Tony Houston, guitar player. I watched him, and after that, you know, my mom, we went, introduced ourselves to him, and he had 2 small kids. When my mother saw that, she was like, "Oh, okay, he's okay," you know. So I got the gig with them, and you know, my dad would take me and drop me off every day to rehearse until I turned 16. I got my driver's license where I could drive myself, you know, to rehearsals and stuff. But that was the beginning when I started playing in clubs.
Tell me about you coming to California. What was the decision making? And I got to read how much you had in your pocket when you made the decision. Tell us about what led up to you coming to California. How much you had in your pocket, and what was it like the first couple of days getting here? And then we'll talk about the Little Richard after that.
Well, actually, I was supposed to come to California with another band, another group of guys when I was 18. And I didn't have a job at that time, but I just wanted to play, man. I wanted to get out of Dayton because at that time wasn't a lot of opportunities happening at the time. Anyway, I ran into David Blakely, and he told me that he was doing some demos over at my friend Thomas Black's house, and I should stop by. And I stopped over there and hung out with him, and they was talking about coming to California. And I was thinking in the back of my mind, okay, maybe this is my chance to go, but I didn't know how serious they were, so I was being precautious about it. And they kept talking about it. And probably about a month before, they was like, "Man, you ready? We're going." I'm like, "So how are y'all gonna get out there?" Because at that time, I don't think anybody had a car but me, you know. And they was like, "We're going to catch the bus, man. We're going to take the bus, the Greyhound." I'm like, "Really?" So they really serious, you know. So I was like, "Well, you know, we can just take my car." And I started saving my money from work. You know, at that time, I wasn't making no money on the job. I wasn't making no money. But I saved up $250. And that's what I had when we left. And then the 4 of us packed up everything we could in my car, and we drove to LA. Because Thomas had been out here before, and he had met Little Richard. And so the second day we got to LA, we stopped at the mobile gas station right there on Sunset La Brea and used the payphone because Richard was staying at the Hyatt on Sunset, and he called and got a hold to him and told him he wanted to stop by. And Richard said he was leaving the hotel and stay at the gas station. Matter of fact, I talk about this in my Little Richard stories, but I'll tell you about that later. But anyway, he comes down there and he took us to get soul food down in Crenshaw. I was tripping, man. I was like, "Man, this is crazy. You know, this is our second day here, you know." So I couldn't believe it, but I had the opportunity and I had to go for it. So that's what I did. And we had one rehearsal, and next thing you know, we was on TV, man, promoting this record. And that's how it all started.
How many years were you with Little Richard?
Total 27.
17, and you know what I mean, and the way she look, way beyond the past. I never danced with another, with a song that's standing.
What's the greatest thing, or the most greatest thing, I'll say, that you think you gleaned or learned from being around Little Richard?
Well, one of the greatest things I think I learned from him is to be yourself. Be true to yourself.
How did you come to find out about Richard's passing, and how did that affect you?
I got a call. I had just woke up about 6 o'clock in the morning, 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, from Walter Prosperous, who he worked for Richard as security. And he called to let me know. I actually had talked to Richard a week prior to that. And I hadn't been communicating with him that much because it was hard to get him. When I did try to contact him, it was hard to get him. He wouldn't answer. You would just have to keep calling, and finally he might pick up. And that one day I called, and he picked up the phone, but he didn't know he had picked up the phone. And I could hear him talking in the background, and I was like, "Hey, hello, Richard, this is Mark," and I heard somebody say, "Hey, somebody's on the phone." And he picked up the phone, and I told him it was me. And we had a good conversation, and he told me to call him later on that evening. And I got busy, and I totally forgot about it. And then I tried to call him back the next day, and I couldn't get a hold to him. And I called him day after that, I couldn't get a hold to him. And then probably a few days after that, his goddaughter called me. She was trying to get in touch with him and asked me had I talked to him. And I told her, when I had talked to her last time I talked to him. And a few days later, I got that call in the morning, and it was hard for me, actually. I had so many mixed emotions. I didn't shed tears or anything. I just really had a lot of thoughts that went through my head of all the personal time that I had with him, because the tours and the traveling and all of that, it was great, but I started thinking about the personal time that, the things that he was about, which was about, he was about doing the right thing, and he loved the Lord, and he always said, "I just want to go to heaven." The last conversation I remember I had with him, he asked me, he said, "So you still playing?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, Mark, if the Lord ain't in it, it ain't nothing." And that was the last words he told me. So, that stuck with me, because that's the end result. If God ain't in it, it ain't nothing.
Moving back towards the drums, if I may ask, what drums do you play? Are you doing any endorsements and so forth?
Yes, I I'm endorsed by D Drums, Istanbul, Mehmet Cymbals, Kickport, Aquarian Drum Heads, Sonic Revision. And at the moment, that's it right now.
In the show here, Extraordinary Drummers, we do a thing we call Word of Advice, where I ask the drummers or the guests if they would leave a word of advice for the up-and-coming drummers, the young guys that are trying to get traction in this game, in this industry, and even the older guys that are established that want to go to the next level. Would you leave a bit of advice for those, please?
The best thing I could say is stay humble. Keep your ears and your eyes open. Be respectful. And this whole business is built on relationships. Sometimes it's not about who the better player is. It's about the guy that's going to come and do the job. It's not going to be a problem. Those are the ones that's going to keep working. The good people. As long as they're available, because you can have a guy that got all the chops and come and do the gig, but if they be like, well, he's good, he's awesome, but he's going to be a problem. I don't want to deal with that. So that's my advice, is to stay humble, give the artists what they want, and don't be a problem.
As I let you go here, thank you for this extended time. I just wanted to listen on some of the Little Richard stuff. And you see, I kept it clean. I didn't do no messy stuff. You thought I was going to get real messy, the personal stuff. I just said, it's right here. I got it here, though, Mark. I said, nope, throw it away. I want to ask you this one question that I had wrote down. Do you ever get to pick up the trumpet still at all?
The trumpet, man, yeah. I can't.
Whatever happened to Mr. Trumpet?
I can't blow it, man. I tried one time. It was like nothing happened. I was like, no, I couldn't even do it. You know, you got to have the lip, man. You know, it's all in the lip. Yeah, I can't do anything with it now. I wish I could, you know, but I did later on. I did learn a little bit. You know, when I was first getting ready, like I told you before, I was coming out to LA with another group before I actually got him out there. And I used the money from my car and bought a bass guitar, so I learned how to play bass a little bit. But I put that down too, but I still can play it a little bit, you know.
Mark 1, am I saying that correctly? Mark 1, let me say thank you so much for being on the Extraordinary Drummer Show. I've just had a ball. As you saw, I went to the one shot many a times, and because I just didn't want to be in the shot. I just wanted them to see it and to hear you talk all those great icon stories. Thank you again so much for being on the Extraordinary Drummer Show.
Thank you. I just want to say, I didn't get to mention one of my heroes was B.B. Queen with Mother's Finest. And I just want to put his name in there because he was a great influence to me as a rock drummer. So shout out to B.B. Queen.
Yeah, that was Mother's Finest. I saw them when I first came to LA and got to go up to their house and had the T-shirt, and they were tight, man.
Really, I got a chance to record with them. I did some demo work with them, and that was, man, I was like, wow, it was crazy because, you know, they went way back. You know, it's just crazy how you meet all the people that you grew up listening to and it was influenced by over the years, and you get a chance to meet them and hang out with them, and they just people, you know. But it's always, you know, an honor to be in the presence of people that you grew up and admiring and listening to and learning from, you know. Let
me say it's an honor to be in your presence as well.
Oh, thank you, man. And I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for being on Extraordinary Drummer Show. Will you help us wave goodbye to everybody?
Say hello to all of you And shout out to Mr. Cheron Moore from the Chronic. Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
I thank you. I'll talk to you soon, my friend. Bye-bye.